y'all already know I do not have a title for any of this yet. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. But it's gonna be a lot of giggling tonight. But welcome. I'm here with my brother.
What up?
I said it's gonna be a lot of giggling. But
It's also 1 o'clock in the morning.
it is. It's 1:45 Central. But welcome. Appreciate you doing this.
Hey, I'm here.
Okay. Well, guys, my first video, I talked about grief and the grieving process. And what better way, first guest, I guess you could say, than having my brother here with me to talk about said process. And so it's just gonna be very, conversation, vulnerable, transparent. And what better place to do it than at our house, our childhood house where we grew up.
Word.
Then here and now, here and now. you know that song?
I promise to love faithfully.
Okay, so yeah, guys, iPad, gotta have the iPad for the notes. So we're gonna start this thing off. Let me take this off. I feel like it's gonna be all on the mic. Cool. So first of all, you're gonna make me laugh.
I'm not doing anything.
Anyways, how are you?
I don't even know how to answer that.
And are you tired? It is 1 o'clock in the morning.
So you want an honest answer?
Yes, this is a very honest.
How honest do you want it to be?
However honest you want to be.
How am I? Just in general.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm all right. I mean, tired, pretty exhausted.
Yeah.
My life's kind of crazy.
Honey.
But
understand.
I mean, I got 3 kids. I'm married.
Child, okay.
I live in the hood. I deal with athletes and college students all day long.
That's a lot.
And then life just kind of sucked for the past 5 years for me.
Oh, okay. Well, wasn't expecting 5 years.
Oh, it's been, yeah.
5 years, let's see. Since I've been 22, or since I was 22.
What's that, 2018? At 5? Yeah.
Is that 5? I'm
17?
not really good with math.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
No, 4 years ago was 2020.
Dang.
So that's wild, right?
It's 2024?
Yeah. So 5 years was 2019.
Shoot, 6 years. Longer. Nah, we can start 2018. 2018 sounds about right. 2017 is kind of starting on a journey. 2018 kind of, I thought we started hitting some smooth seas, and then we started getting some wind, and then it just started picking up. Past 4 years definitely have been garbage. I mean, I got my wife, my kids. I love people. Some people love me.
I don't think I can relate.
Some people love me.
I mean, I love you. I
My
can
mom
relate
loves
that.
me.
Mom definitely loves you for sure.
But yeah, stuff really went crazy.
Okay.
But we can elaborate on that later if you want to.
We can definitely
gotta do it right now.
Yeah, we can elaborate that.
That's a preliminary question.
So. The past year, I definitely can say I understand that. The other years, I can't relate. So we'll come back to that at another time.
We'll come back to it.
Okay, cool. All right. So many of you know we lost our dad last year. It's crazy. So almost a year.
Yeah, next month.
Yeah, it's
April 4th.
It's really wild. Yeah. So, a couple questions. First of all, what do you miss most about Dad?
It's a lot of things.
And
the most.
I can tell you mine first if you like.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I think for me, like most was our like conversations were always at night.
Hmm.
You know, Dad's night owl,
Yeah.
and for me, it was like I know at 1 o'clock in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
if there's anybody I can call and they're gonna be awake, it's gonna be Dad.
Yeah.
So I think it's that, and then just the calls in general, because like Dad would always call me right when I would get out of the shower as I'm getting ready for work. It never failed. I don't know what it was. Like it's almost as if like you knew I just got out the shower,
Mm-hmm.
but it was always at that time. And so I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna call you right back. Or if I don't answer, he will leave video messages. So I think just like, oh, seeing this like video message, it's like I don't have those anymore to actually like look forward to getting out of the shower and seeing it. So I think it's just having the conversations in his voice is what I miss the most. Like in my overwhelmness, he was my sense of calm.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm trying to find and figure out who do I turn to now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. This isn't necessarily answering your question, but I will in a second.
Okay.
Hearing you talk about what you miss from Dad actually makes me think about how I am with Eden. And it's not that I don't miss what you talked about. I do miss his voice. I do miss the late night conversations. Like, um, I don't know. It's hard to say what I miss the most.
Because there's just so many things.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
he was.
It's still weird saying was for me. Just you saying that.
Yeah. I don't know. I tell this to my wife all the time. Like, y'all have personality types that people like. People receive y'all very well. Like, it's the society we live in. Y'all's personalities. Oh yeah, that's how. Whatever, I don't know what the lingo is. They like that. People like me that challenge people, that kind of have like a reformer chip in them. People that want to like just going with what people do. Like we don't do that. You kind of don't make a bunch of friends all the time. And so for Dad,
he got you.
well, I mean, I'm his son, so
Well,
I get it
obviously.
because of him. He was like this, but it's one of those things where I always there's one person I can think of in my mind, other than, and this is after the fact. Dad was always like in my corner.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of betrayal in my life.
Mm.
I've never ever had a question mark about Dad's love, his support.
Yeah.
And people say that, right? Like people say that because that's what you're supposed to say about your parents. But it's like it's real.
It's real. Yeah.
It was real. Like he was always. There was never a moment that I felt a question mark. And there's really not anybody I can think of in my life, other than maybe Mom, that I've never felt the question mark from them. Like, and then even if they had questions, the questions were always for me, like in a good way. So I don't know. I guess if I had to pick one right now, just off the top of my head, if you ask me 30 minutes from now, I'll have a different answer. But the first one is I miss his constant support. And I don't even necessarily mean in my endeavors, his support and just in who I was.
Yeah.
Like the identity he put in me, and then his consistent reassurance, this is who you are. I don't care if you're sports, I don't care if you're coaching, you're preaching, ministry, 9-to-5 job, parent, husband, by yourself. Like I know who you are and most people don't. And I support who you are in the essence and identity of what's in you. And so I don't know, that kind of gives a lot of, because I have a consistent if I'm being honest, like, hey, hello camera, we're being vulnerable. Like, probably one of the I have two big struggles in my life. I'll just take one of them tonight. One of them is believing I'm actually loved.
Mm.
That's probably one of my two biggest struggles I've had for probably the entirety of my life. Not because mom and dad didn't love me,
Right.
because I've never doubted that, which is very odd why that's the
Because you would think
struggle.
that that's a reason, yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if I don't know why, but knowing that that was always there within me, kind of as a tug of war inside, knowing what the truth is, but this is how I feel, and he would always come in and pull me in the direction of, no,
The
God loves
reassurance.
you, I love you, your mom loves you, your sister loves you, and he would just keep on being that extra voice that would echo God's identity over
Over
me.
you. How do you feel like, obviously, like within like the past year of going through like highs, lows, and things of that nature, him always being the one that brings you back to that place, how do you feel that you now are able to like have that remembrance of knowing your identity and like who you are and feeling loved and not having him being the one to actually say that to you?
So how's it been with him not being there?
Yeah. Like, how are you feeling that? I guess filling that void in the sense of you don't have that person, you don't have him here to
Yeah,
do that.
it's interesting. Like, I don't know how long these answers are supposed to be.
Okay.
You're talking to me, so
I mean, so it's gonna be a long
this
answer.
is how we roll.
Well, we are Fonsecas. This is we're long winded.
We are. How I've been feeling that. The easy church answer is, I pray.
Mm-hmm.
And I pray. I believe the Lord brings that affirmation on a regular.
Yeah.
But that's a nuanced answer. Like, that's kind of a wave. Like the waves of the ocean that comes, crashes in. You're waiting for another wave to come. And so there's like this, there have been moments where it's like it hasn't been there.
Yeah.
Um, Shout out to Paul Hughes. Paul Hughes has always been a father in my life,
Yeah.
and he's been one that has filled that void in some ways. Because after Dad died, my godfather died,
Right.
and then another who was big sister. Then a guy I coached ball with for a couple of years. He died all last year, and just for the background, the reason the past several years have sucked for me is because close to 40 people have died in my life, from whether it was COVID to kids being shot and killed in the inner city that I mentor, to um, I'll just say, well, I don't want to name names, family who have committed suicide,
Yeah.
um, friends who are missionaries that have died overseas, friends who are inner city missionaries who died heinous deaths, um, to cancers, to
Everything in between.
yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
so it's interesting, and these weren't like fringe people. These were people I knew, I was in a relationship with.
Yeah.
So like you have that kind of then pop, then
It just
dad
all,
died.
yeah, just all,
So it's like, okay, all this sucks. Then dad,
yeah.
and dad's kind of the rock, right?
Mm.
And then the person that was you were beginning to lean into to be that voice, that he died.
Yeah.
And then when Erica passed, she was always the person in the church that I helped lead, was the primary voice of affirmation. And you ain't got to explain yourself to nobody, but like Erica
Yeah.
was that way. It's just weird. And so like, so it's like there's been this like wrestle with hearing the affirmation from the Lord. There's been this at moments void of the voice
Yeah.
that would say, I'm with you. But then he show up in some way. Oh man, I needed that. Can you do that more?
Yeah.
And then there's the gap.
Mm.
And then what fills the void is the emotions of the grief that shows up. It's like, can somebody at least speak to the emotion of grief that's going on within me? Even if it's not affirmation, if it's just like, tell me what the heck is going on right now.
And trying to figure out like what's going on, like how talking about grief, especially with all the people that you just referred to. So how are you processing that? Like what is your grief process? Because everybody's process is completely different. And I know like from conversations with like mom, like how in a way how her process is and how it's been kind of. Maybe a little bit with you, not so much. And same with like Aaron, but knowing that everybody has a different process of how they go through in grief. Some try to push it away and some try to like acknowledge it. And that's something that I've learned within the past year of just like, okay, let me acknowledge it whenever it is, however it shows up, and actually like be able to sit in it, but also knowing like, okay, I sat in it. Now I got to get up and continue to go about my day. Mm. Like I was sat in the Hyundai bathroom looking in the mirror crying the first time I had to take my car to go get service, because for me it's always, okay, so they said this.
Right.
Here you go. I'm going to let you talk to them, and not having that.
Right.
But knowing like, okay, even though I'm in a public place, I can cry and let this out, because if I hold it in, I'm going to bust.
Yeah.
So how is your process in trying? I mean, it doesn't have to be you crying. Obviously.
No. I mean, is there really just one way?
Like, no, not at all.
Yeah, and I know you know that. It's just like cried, yelled, cried some more. I mean, I've been in therapy for a while anyway, so yeah. Sometimes I hate it, sometimes I love it.
See, and I started therapy after Dad.
Okay, I was in therapy before Pop.
Because in my mind, I had a like, okay, I may start therapy in a general sense.
Did you like it at first or at all?
I didn't know how, I'm a talker, so like me talking is not too difficult. It was difficult in the beginning in the sense of my defense mechanism is me laughing or trying to make a joke of things. Mm-hmm. So I would try to make a joke because I don't want to basically like talk about it. I think the main reason why I was like, okay, I do need to go is because at work I have the persona of always having fun, full of energy. That's just how I am. And I was like, I don't want to be this way, but I feel like I have to. So I put on a mask of, I'm okay, everything's fine, I'm okay. Yeah, my dad, but it's okay. And I was like, that's not healthy for me. So I've been trying to learn how to put an actual name to how I'm feeling, rather than I shut down. And I'm learning I shut down in difficult conversations and stuff like that. So I kind of sort of liked it. Really enjoying it now. She called me out. My therapist calls me out about stuff, which I need.
You don't like when I do it, but
it's different. She don't know me like that.
It is what it is.
I appreciate you calling me out though.
Do you know?
At the end of the day, I do.
Well, we gotta go down that risk.
Hairball.
No, man, I cry. I mean, therapy, but I mean, for me, I don't know. It's like First Thessalonians talks about, we don't grieve like those of the world who have no hope. Like optimism is kind of irritating to me at times because it's like Henry Nouwen, he's this writer. He says that living by optimism is basically you're just waiting for things to get better. But living according to hope means you can be present in the moment. And I think like leaning into grief, I think is, I mean, people's timetable is different, but I think leaning into grief is probably the wiser way to go.
Yeah.
Because you try to distract yourself, which I've done, probably, and I still do it. But so how I've dealt with grief is I've tried to lean into distraction because I don't want to think about it.
Right.
But I think when I do that, I actually miss out on what is available to me if I lean into the grief. And so I've actually tried to lean into grief, and leaning into grief forces me in the direction of hope. Because hope gives me the space to be present in my grief, but also to get out of this grief something of substance that is for where I'm going. And I think ultimately knowing that this is not without purpose,
Yeah.
it allows me to grieve a lot better. So the tears matter, the screaming matters, the frustration matters, the waves matter, the not knowing what to do right now matters. And so I actually think, to quote John O, like, grief is like coffee. Like, a lot of people don't like to drink black coffee because it's bitter.
I don't like coffee.
But and so we distract it with the creamery and the sugar.
Okay.
But if you lean into the bitterness of coffee, you begin to find the sweetness in that. And so the bitter can become bittersweet and not just stay bitter. So the grief,
come on, metaphor,
can actually find itself to becoming very much so a prerequisite to hope. If I could use that language.
You saying that, I had a question talking about like the duality of it, of that obviously losing dad, there's sadness. But then because we know dad and the relationship that he had with Jesus, and knowing like he's with Jesus, and like this is not the end. And I guess the duality of it is like, you kind of answered it in a way of having the sadness, but also knowing that there is this happiness in that. I think like one of the things I kind of thought that was not amazing, but beautiful in the sense, I guess, is that knowing like how we were all there singing worship, and knowing that when dad went to heaven, like, you're up here now with the angels. Like, it's a beautiful thing, but also in the moment it was like, this is beautiful, but I'm really sad. Like, I'm very happy about this, but I'm really sad. Like, this sucks. This is trash. And so, like you said, like, I guess that hope, and then it's not really a question, but just your thoughts on that balance of the two emotions.
Sadness and happiness. I mean, it's hard to know comfort if you're not uncomfortable. Like, it gives validity to the joy when you're in grief. I'm unapologetic. I love Jesus. I follow Jesus. That's my paradigm. That's my filter.
Right.
And in 2 Corinthians 1, it talks about how, we are comforted by God so we can comfort others. But I can only comfort others to the degree I allow God's comfort me. Because I think a lot of times what we do is we just kind of I say this all the time back home, we say true statements, but there's no substance behind it. I tell our coaches, you teach what you know, you impart who you are. And if I just know stuff that's true statements because it's been confirmed by many people over years and whatever decades and centuries, okay, I can make a true statement and it might impact you. It's another thing if that statement has actually brought comfort to me
Mm.
and has actually resonated with me. And I have now sought to be a person to embody that comfort. So now I can go comfort you. And the words I say has substance and weight behind it because it's not theoretical for me.
Yeah.
Fire's been put to that stuff. Now I know it to be true. So I need, it's kind of, in order to know resurrection life, you have to die.
Yeah.
In order to know joy unspeakable, in order to know beauty, you have to have ashes.
Mm.
In order to have joy, you must know mourning. There's it's just, um, a faith that's not tested, in my mind, is not a faith that can be trusted.
Mm.
And so, if it's not allowed, if Jesus is not who he says he is in the midst of my suffering, then he's not God.
Yeah.
But if he is exactly who he says he is in my suffering, not because I say he's right, it's because he's proven himself to
To
be
be.
this.
Right.
Now there's substance behind my words that I can say a true statement that God is the God of comfort. But when I know him to be the God of comfort, when I have suicidal thoughts for the first time, and then he invades me in that moment of suicidal thoughts, and he begins to still the storm inside of me that I didn't have power to do anything to still that. Now I know him as a God of comfort.
Mm.
So I can go talk to you and say, hey, I know you're going through this and it's very real. I can sit in this with you for as
Yeah.
long as you need to sit in it. I know what's on the
The
horizon,
other
though,
side. Yeah.
if you choose to walk this path, I think the right way.
In talking about knowing God as a comforter and you then being able to comfort others through this, through grieving, how is it with, I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question,
Mm-hmm.
but like, when someone,
Got old knees, man.
I mean, I understand my joints are old too. I get it. I understand. Maybe not as much, but a little bit. How is it, when someone dies, it's like everybody comes at you. Everybody texts, everybody calls. I'm here for you, whatever you need, all this and all that. And I was watching, shout out Tim Ross, I was watching his podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And his dad passed recently. He was talking about, I actually wrote it down. He was talking about, I don't need you right now. He's
Yeah.
like, immediately at this moment, I don't need you. And if I do need you, I'll reach out to you. He's like, I need your prayer. Okay. I need the peace of God, but I don't need you. And he put on his Instagram, he was like, Dad died. Don't call or don't text. He was like, I'm not trying to be rude, but like,
Yeah.
I don't need you. And he was saying how most times once the funeral happens, people disappear because
Mm-hmm.
it's almost as if, okay, everybody's laid to rest. So now everything's done and we're good in the moment. Like all the feelings are gone. And it's really in that moment, it's just like, no, I actually need you after that.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, I'm getting everything situated. I mean, like how we were trying to, we got to write this out. Who's going to do the program? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that?
Yeah.
There's so many things that you're trying to figure out that your mind is constantly racing. That when you are like finally alone, you're sitting in that moment of the feelings. And I know for me, like when I got back to Connecticut, I think that's when it all just like got me. Because in that moment, I'm like, okay, I'm alone. Like it's just me now. So I think the question is just like, the question and I guess the thoughts are just, what is it that you think people need and we don't necessarily say in the moment when it's like we're grieving? Because I know like with you, I feel like there were people who were reaching out and you're just like, bro, I ain't even talk to you. Like, you don't even know my dad. Like,
Yeah. What do I think people need?
what is it that you needed that you don't think that you got? That people didn't understand, like, I need you 2 weeks after the funeral.
I mean,
I
I
need
think
you to sit with me.
what did I need that I didn't get? it was probably my. Sounds terrible.
Not terrible.
No, it's just I don't know if it was realistic though. That's why
Okay.
I'm kind of like I didn't want to go back to work.
Mm,
Like you gotta go to work. I gotta pay for my bills, my kids.
right.
But I needed, what I feel like I needed was understanding from my coworkers, mostly my supervisors, that you want me to come back to work. Again, I'm not saying this is realistic,
Yeah.
and I get the world we live in, so probably doesn't happen much. I'm in a Christian organization, so I kind of think it could happen,
Mm,
but I don't know that I got. Hey man, let's kind of taper expectations,
mm,
and then we can increase it as we go along.
yeah.
Because the moment you come back to work after your 2 3 week hiatus, the expectation is, man, get right back on the horse, and you need to perform.
Right.
You need to do what we're telling you to do, and you can't tell me you need time off right now. And I'm like, don't say that. I'm like, look, man, uh, if I leave our staff meeting 3 times to go cry in the bathroom, like, F off. Like, don't. I need that.
Right.
Well, you want me to disrupt your whole thing? You don't want me to do that. So let me grieve.
Mm,
And so I think what I needed in that sense was, give me the space to grieve this. Like,
yeah.
it's not something that's just easy to move on past. And I don't know that people are aware of that.
Yeah.
It's like, to some degree, you could blame people because you just wish they would be a little more, considerate and think through it. But at the
Mm,
same token, I get their responsibility as supervisors. I get their responsibility as jobs. People got to do this stuff. Yeah, not really. I had thoughts on what you said. That's not actually your question, though.
okay. Go ahead.
Because I was actually mad too when, like,
I know you were upset.
I was, I wanted to leave. I don't want none of y'all here. Like, give me
I
like
know.
20 of y'all. The rest of y'all, I don't even. And that's, God, man. If anybody sees this, man, whatever. Um, like, I just, the people that were there, it's like, I wrestling with mom about it. It's like, I guess I appreciate it now, like hindsight,
Yeah.
respect. But I don't respect the people that try to leverage that situation to come across a certain way.
Mm,
Like I said, if you don't, and yeah, am I bitter? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Is it irritate me? It does irritate me because I don't find it to be genuine.
Right.
It's like you leverage the situation to appear like it matters.
Mm,
Like, when I'm getting texts and calls from people that don't talk to me, I'm a little less bothered now,
right.
but it still gets under my skin a little bit because I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. Like, maybe they're
Yeah.
doing it because
I think it's
that's
just
their
a
way
thing.
to try to.
I think it's just the way that we are raised, and like, okay, someone whose parent, sibling, whatever dies, and you're just like, okay, you got this, hey, I'm sorry to hear
I
about your
get it.
loss. I mean, and I get it.
I get
It
it.
is, I think it is a thing of just like, for me, depending on the person, majority of the time, I was just like, thanks, I appreciate it.
I guess that's
But
their
but
attempt to
that's
try to
it.
pay the respects, and I'm
Yeah.
going to choose to land there. But at the same token, I'm just like, I wouldn't be mad if I didn't hear from you. There's
Valid.
some people I need to hear from you.
Correct.
There's other people, if you don't speak, I'm not even mad. I
Because I
feel
don't
like,
expect it from
well, because
you.
I think that's consistent from what your stance has been for
Correct.
this long.
Yeah.
And I respect at least the consistency in that way. Then there's people that lied, and I don't play that. Like, don't talk about my dad in a fashion that you didn't know him that way.
Yeah.
That just wasn't true. And I won't say names, but there's people that showed up to that thing that I'm like, I don't even want you here.
Yeah.
I don't actually think that that's genuine. You're using this to portray something that's not true. This is not the time nor the place nor the type of event for you to try to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's good for anybody's death. But after the fact, there's people that were close to me for a decade plus that I to this day still have not heard from since my dad died.
Mm.
That was actually very bothersome. Was Tim Ross said, I need you after the fact. There are people that I don't even know why. Like I don't even get it.
See, it was interesting for me. I had a friend who I've known for years. And for me, I was like, I actually don't want to talk to you.
You had known for years?
I've known this person for years.
Mm-hmm.
And like we're still cool, we're still friends now. But it was like, I appreciate you reaching out, consistently reaching out, but I actually don't want to talk to you.
Did you tell him that?
Not in those words, no. And I probably should have. And
why? I'm curious.
Why didn't I want to talk to him? In my mind, I was like, I know you can relate, like immensely relate to what I'm going through. Mm-hmm. And I felt as though because you can relate, I feel like you're going to put your experience on me and have the expectation that I'm going to go and experience exactly what you went through and experience and have an expectation that I should deal with it the way you did. And that's not... I
think I remember this.
Huh?
I feel like I remember this.
Well, that's not what I wanted nor needed. And so I was just like, hey, I appreciate you reaching out to me. Thank you. I'll reach out and call you when I'm in a place where I want to talk. But it was like, I know the intention in the heart that you have is good, but I don't need that.
See, I didn't do that good. I didn't give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
I kind of just landed on, I don't trust you. I don't trust your motives. And I don't know if the death revealed that in me. I don't know if that was already in me, and the death said, "Hey, this is who you actually are."
Yeah.
Or if that was like a genuine response. But I honestly, in that sense, I don't think I did that too well. I think I actually used that opportunity probably more than I should have to not talk to people because I don't really like talking to people.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, perfect scenario that I can use to justify the fact that I don't want to fool with you no more. And I used that as a gap. And so in some ways, I can't even be mad at some people who haven't spoken to me because I did the similar thing to others. And I've reached out to a couple since, and we've talked it out, and they didn't hold anything against me because they're good people. They're like, hey, your dad died. It makes sense. But I know in my heart what I was doing with it. And so God convicted me, and I had to go do business with some folks. But
do you feel like you were here throughout, before Dad died, throughout everything? Mm-hmm. And do you feel like, I'm trying to figure out my words. Do you think that also played a part in, I guess, like, I think it's heavy regardless, Dad dying, but do you think that going through everything with him beforehand, prior to his death, that it played a part in how you, like, didn't want people around, or play a part in just, like, you felt like you had a responsibility of being the strong person, I guess, or stronger, because it felt like you had to take on so much? I know for me, I felt like because I wasn't here, I feel like I told you this. I don't know. I probably told Mom or somebody. For me, I felt bad not being here because it's like, I felt bad because I wasn't here, but I felt bad because you took on so much. In that, in a way, I thought that you and Dad had resentment towards me, and I don't want to speak for Aaron, but towards both of us for not being here.
I had no resentment. Um, no, I don't have me that. Um, I probably had more resentment to people that weren't in our family that were around, that chose not to be around, that knew they were more than welcomed and wanted to be around. I didn't have any resentment towards y'all. I don't know. I feel like I've always kind of taken more on my shoulders than was probably mine to take on in our family, particularly in us as siblings. So, I don't know. It didn't feel like it was anything out of the ordinary in that sense. In some ways, I wanted to take away responsibilities from mom
Mm.
because I just saw the impacts
Yeah.
on her. I saw how she. I don't know. There's. I don't know how much mom would want me to divulge this info, but certain decisions and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember just telling her like, look, I'll make that choice. I'll make that decision, so you don't have to. Um, I don't know, but nobody ever wants to like make certain choices about your
Factual.
dad. I don't know. I'm probably going to trauma therapy soon because like I saw my dad die twice,
Yeah.
and that was the part that's I don't even know what to do with that still.
I haven't. I don't. I haven't even processed the one known time that I
Yeah, no,
saw.
I don't. I beat like I got here before the ambulance got here.
Yeah.
Like they pulled it right behind me, and yeah, I don't even know how to
That's
think
something
about that.
that I think I told my therapist, but a lot of people don't actually know that how dad died. Like people like, I'm sorry that you died, but like you don't actually know
Yeah.
like the how or that. No, I was there, like
Mm.
literally seeing, and I know that's something that I never will get out of my actually
I'm fighting.
visually
Yeah,
seeing.
I've been asking the Lord to remove the image out of my mind.
Yeah,
I don't like seeing him. Like even pictures of the family before he passed when we were all together.
yeah,
I still don't really like the Christmas pictures.
yeah,
I don't really look at them. I look at old pictures, uh, just because it's tough, man. I mean,
mm-hmm.
I'm not a guy that's like shies away from a whole ton a lot. Like I don't. I've seen people die. I've been in my own messes before. So again, having not been in the military and in some type of a war zone, I've seen and been through a lot in my young 37 years.
Yeah,
That I don't know. I'm still that's probably something I still don't know how to wrestle with yet.
yeah,
I know it impacts me. I talked to my therapist about it. I said I don't quite. But Casey, my wife, she actually is the one that said, maybe. I said, Kay, I don't know the impact of that.
yeah,
Like I know it. I'm sure it has. Like, but I'm not entirely sure the effect it's had on my mind seeing my dad die twice.
yeah,
Like to see him flatline and then to see him flatline again,
yeah,
like days apart, to know that you're kind of yeah, I don't want to get into it. So
yeah. No, for you. Do you think that like? Do you think the circumstance like grief would look different if the circumstances were different in that like I feel like I'm trying to figure out. I feel like if it's a thing, I personally had no expectation of that dying in a general sense of like, I guess going to Birmingham, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get everything situated.
Yeah, and I get that thought process. I know where you're going.
Yeah. And like, do you think the grief looks different based off of circumstances, or do you think it's the same?
I don't know. I mean, I've grieved different situations and feels the same. I mean, the person probably is what hits differently. Well, I take that back. I think how people die doesn't impact you. I think maybe whether or not you see it or not has different effects.
Right.
I know it's like all in the same house, just different rooms. So it's like we're all in the same boat. You just might have a different vantage point than I have. Because I was like you, like it's like I am a like full believer God heals. I believe in miracles. I've seen them, but I'm also the believer that for whatever reasons sometimes it does not happen.
Right.
And so like I believe in praying and faith and for healing and these things. And in my heart, I never like conceived the thought that Dad would actually die from this.
Yeah.
Probably because he beat it 20 years prior.
Right.
I know it's like no way it's this is how you're gonna go out.
Right.
Like, this isn't real. And then being with Dad every day up at the hospital in Birmingham and kind of seeing the difficulties they were having and starting to see kind of the writing reality on the wall. It's like choosing to look at it, but then not look at it again, but not look at it. And there's that constant back and forth inside and trying to like wrestle with, is this going to happen? And I remember a conversation I had with Pop. Wasn't the last conversation I had with Dad.
I remember the last words that said to me.
I remember the last conversations. He was,
right here.
Right here. He was on the freaking thing right here. I remember the last conversation in Birmingham with Dad. And that kind of was like I feel like we're probably headed that direction. And I was telling him like, don't worry about Mom. Don't worry about Aaron. Don't worry about Alicia. Like I got them. And that was probably the part where it's like I took something probably on my shoulders that wasn't entirely mine to take on.
Yeah.
But it was like rest well, Pop. Like I got them. And then just that bouncing back and forth inside does something to you, where it's like hope. Oh, then it's like, hold on, is this it? Oh, dang. Okay, they're gonna do this. Oh, shoot. And man, just the seesaw effect of your emotions, man. It's like, I just don't. It just takes time for that seesaw to slow down. And it's just like, shoot, man.
Yeah.
So, all that to say, probably still haven't fully worked through it.
I get that.
I'll look at it later.
Now, you talking about the last conversation in Birmingham. It's so interesting how you never realize the last conversation could be the last conversation with someone. Yeah. And I remember for me, it was a Saturday because y'all were still in Birmingham. It was a Saturday before y'all left. And that day I was just like, just all in my head, like all emotions, just about life. Yeah, I told you when I get overwhelmed, like Dad is the person I typically like call. And I called Mom and Dad was asleep, but she was in the room. So I'm like telling her everything, just like work, just life, everything. And I guess Dad heard me talking to Mom because when we got on the phone, she called me back and he had the phone. And I'm like, you told me he was asleep. Like, not this man just heard everything going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on my necklace that I wear. He said, "Don't follow the crowd, trust God."
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that that's like the last thing that I remember, I try to hold on to it and like remember. But you don't realize in that moment that like, oh, this is that was it. And sometimes I'm like, I wish I could have had a more like,
I've thought about that a lot. I don't think. I mean, it's like, oh, you gotta hold on to those moments. But it's like at the same time, like you never. Nobody. There's always going to be. Man, there was more I probably could have.
Yeah.
Paid attention to. Should have said this. It's like I don't think anybody ever will check off that box every moment you had.
Yeah.
To say what you wanted to say. But I remember after Pop passed, there was this book I saw. It was a dad writing letters to his, I think his daughters, and the title was "Leave No Word Unsaid." Was I think the name of the book, and it was things that he, no, I think maybe it's the children to the dad. Can't remember which way it was, but it was like words that they had never spoken to their either dad or to their daughter. I remember reading it and just even the impact on my everyday life. Like as I get older every year, people ask you questions. You know, like what did you learn this past year, whatever. And honestly, every year I'm giving the same answer because I think about it and I land at the same answer. Things that don't matter don't matter nearly as much, and the things that matter, they matter a whole lot more. As the older I get, and as the older I get, like I'm trying to be, I'm cherishing things more, but I'm also more serious. But I think about C.S. Lewis. He says that joy is a serious matter in heaven, and I'm trying to like even like those last talks with Pop, those last words. I remember our little exchange before me and Casey left to go to Target, and then got the call, and it was like there was never a moment to just say like, I mean, the last thing I said to Pop, hug and said, "I love you, Pop. I see you in a little bit." But not knowing that was the last one should force us in the direction of being more serious about taking joy in the relationships we have.
Yeah.
Like it should make us more sober rather than bitter. Though bitter might be somewhere in the journey, but sooner or later, I think it needs to lead us to a certain sobriety about. I mean, that's the heaviness of death, right? Is like, do you take life more serious to live it and to live it well, to live it the way it's meant to be lived, or kind of if we handle death appropriately, it should change our lives.
It's so interesting. Again, referring to the video of Tim Ross, he would say it's something about losing a parent that makes you have a morality check in a way. And I thought that was interesting. And it's kind of like what you're saying. It's like the moment, like death, makes you see the seriousness, but also like enjoying those moments and the little moments and things.
It's made me take my marriage a lot more serious, which I thought I did before. I take my parenting more serious, but I take the moments where I want to like get upset with my kids. It makes me slow down. That's the funny thing. It's like, oh, you should live it to the fullest. But what the heck does that mean? That means slow down for a second, maybe. Don't go off on your children right now. Like, talk to them about what just happened, so that they leave knowing you love them, even if it's a correction. Like, it makes you pause. It makes you, be mindful of the partnerships you make with people. It makes you pause and consider, like, is this really that big a deal? This is for me, because everything's a big deal, and it's my responsibility to make sure everybody knows. That's kind of, but it's like, is it really?
Yeah.
And you need help. I mean, the Holy Spirit need help, a lot of help.
You alluded to the question I actually was going to ask, so I appreciate you already kind of answering it. That you are a dad
I am a
yourself.
dad.
So, like, how does that,
Mm,
losing your dad, how does that affect in how you parent? And you already said it makes you, like, slow down and not immediately be like, all right, snap, go off. But it's like, okay, let me calm in perspective, take a moment
yeah.
because of that. It's so interesting for me. I remember saying, I think I said this to Aaron when we were leaving the hospital. I was like, Dad got to meet y'all's
Mm-hmm.
spouses, your kids.
Yeah.
I was like, and I don't get that chance.
Right.
And that was like, and you kind of said earlier about how like the relationship Dad had with me versus the relationship that he had with y'all,
Mm-hmm.
and the differences between the two.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I always, you said like I always knew that Dad got you.
Mm-hmm.
Like y'all understood each other
Mm-hmm.
very much so. But then I always view Dad in the sense of like, this my guy who's gonna take care of me.
Yeah.
You know. Um. So yeah, there wasn't really a question. It was just a thought.
No, I get it. I play with this. This is Dad's wedding ring.
Mm,
Um, I mess with it a lot. Like obviously I wear it.
yeah.
I was laying in bed with Casey. So I have my dad's hands.
Mom said I have his hands too,
Yeah,
but
fat.
you definitely have his
Yeah, mine
hands.
look exactly like
Yeah.
his. It's kind of, but nah, it's weird. Like I was thinking about I have my dad's hands. I saw the ring on my finger when I was doing it, and I remember looking at Dad's hand, and he never took it off. Like his fat fingers would like
Literally.
stretch that mug, and I was like, man, so I don't know. It was just a weird kind of one of those surreal, like I don't know, moments where you're like,
Yeah.
but I think about I wear it because there's this. I don't really need. It's funny. Like I don't really need a reminder
Yeah.
of Dad. There's not really a whole lot that like I don't need a lot of reminders. He has been branded in my mind, in my heart, in my emotions, how I teach, how I parent, the way I talk. I can reference just about everything about me back to mom and pop. But it helps me with my marriage. It helps me with. I think the biggest thing this helps me with is authenticity
Mm.
because Dad was, if not, he was not. There's no fake bone in Dad's body.
Yeah.
To a fault. He there were so this was more of a reminder to like what kind of example was put before me and Dad that I need to either learn to become
Mm.
or learn from. And him being in his parenting, like I said, we all had our relationships with Dad. Aaron and Dad's was probably a little more intense than all of ours, probably because they were probably a lot more similar.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure I could say without question, I don't think any one of us, not because of anything Dad did, I don't think there was any questions we had in our mind that Pop loved us.
Yeah.
Like we might have been stupid for a moment, but it wasn't because Dad did something that
Right.
portrayed a lack of love. Uh, I do the kiss the kiss monster with my daughter. I just and that's kind of my thing with her right now. But I tell people all the time. I say, yeah, my dad kissed me all the time. I know he kissed. Yeah, your sister. Yeah, no, he kissed me a lot. He kissed me all the time. There's not a day I can remember going by where he didn't kiss me a number of times. And my dad cried a lot
Yeah.
in front of us. He made mistakes and never hid it. Like mom and dad never hid their
Never.
arguments. We all knew what was going on in the house. Um, Obviously, I got beat by him on a number of occasions.
can't
Praise
relate.
God for the whoopings.
I can't relate.
Oh, I got it, man.
See, mom would do it, but dad would be the one to be like, all right, we're going to have a talk as to why.
Yeah. I whoop my daughter. I ain't gonna lie. I whoop my daughter. There's a lot that goes into whooping my daughter, but there's a lot that goes into whooping all my kids. Oh, and that's kind of I don't do it a whole ton of while when it's necessary. But point being is his authenticity in his parenting. Like I even saw his marriage was as much parenting to us. Like how him and mom navigated their marriage was a tool God used to parent us. So it massively impacts my parenting.
Yeah.
Like I'll say this. When you're results oriented, like the result is what's the focal point.
Mm-hmm.
So the journey's frustrating because you just want to hurry up and get here.
Right.
When you're trying to become something or someone, the focal point is the journey, because the journey is what makes you this. You can't focus on this part. You have to focus on this part. And you know, I have my share of struggles and shortcomings as a father and a husband. But watching dad always like accept the journey, even if it was the wrong choice, because I think there were things dad would even say like it was probably not the best, wisest choice at the moment, looking back on it. But he walked it through. He was a man that said, "This is a choice I made, and I got to live in this one.
Yeah.
And I got to take what comes with it." But knowing this is producing something, even if it was the wrong choice. And so even in my parenting early on, I did certain things that wasn't, it wasn't like sinful or egregious. It just probably wasn't the wisest way to handle stuff.
Yeah.
But seeing dad, his way of becoming somebody, it's just a further reminding, like, you got to fight to become this. You can't just end at the result of having good children because you wanted to have good children.
Yeah.
You had to be committed to the journey of walking with Jesus in the failures as a husband, in the failures as a parent, so that you ultimately become this man that has wise counsel. Dad always had the advice. Everybody went to Pop for the advice, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My niece.
I understand. Well. Sorry, I said that and it made me think of mom and dad always, that's a deep subject. Turning it sideways, Yeah. I guess my last final question.
Last one.
Yeah, last one. And it's kind of like how I want to end like all of my videos, I guess you could say. And I think it's because of going through like this past year and understanding the grieving process and therapy, again, my first year in therapy, is I want to focus just like your mental health and like how are you, like I started off asking how are you, and I want to end with how are you and how is your mental, what are you doing to continue to be in a good mental space?
Yeah, I sing.
Not well, but you do.
That was the answer. I sing. I sing a lot by myself. Obviously, I play with my children. My wife's, she's better than I deserve. She's awesome. Two things I think if I'll land on that I'm trying to do better with one of them. The other one I gotta get back to doing it well. The chaos kind of caused it. I don't trust people very much, but simultaneously I crave brotherhood. I think we're made. Before there was sin in the world, God saw that made us with a certain relational chip in us. We're made for relationships.
Right.
So as much as I'm like a loner, I don't need 50 friends. Give me 2 or 3, I'm good. But I need those 2 or 3. You know what
Hello.
I'm saying? So it's like I sincerely, like, I don't trust a whole ton of a lot of people. And I think some people take a degree of pride in that for whatever reason. I don't think that that's something I should take pride in. Um, I'm not going to ignore it. It's something I have to work and navigate through, which I am. But part of how I take care of my mental is I'm actually fighting to find and walk in godly community. And that's pushing the boundaries of my trust. We were at a small group a few weeks ago. Everybody's going around, kind of telling their story, and I said, I don't want to be here. I don't really trust y'all. I trust him. I don't know if I trust everybody. But then I said, but y'all two are like recovering addicts. Y'all said that out loud, and you talked about it. So that made me more comfortable to say, okay, this isn't going to be one of them plastic Christian small groups. It's going to be one of the real ones. We get to talk about real stuff.
Right.
And so my prayer is that, and some relationships with some men, that's one of the ways I'm fighting for my mental, because I think that's part of one of God's avenues to give us that. And the last one is silence, sitting in silence. That used to be a regular part of my prayer time. I would sit kind of in silence for like an hour or so with the Lord, and grew comfortable with my thoughts coming to the front. And then the chaos of the past few years happened, and the silence was now chaos to me.
Yeah.
And it was no longer a place that I could actually go there with the Lord. Probably could. I just distracted him. I didn't want to because it was too chaotic. I didn't have the
too many minds.
Too many minds. That's right. Too many minds. And so now I'm entering back into that, and I'm beginning to face some of those thoughts again now. I think what we do when we're confronted with something is we either distract ourselves so I don't have to look at it, or I listen to the counsel of despair and just wallow. But either road is not a good road. I got to go head on. And I think sitting in silence and letting those thoughts come to the surface again, and then beginning to take that to the Lord. And you need people, clearly, but Blaise Pascal made the comment and said, all of men's problems stem from this one thing: he can't sit alone he can't sit alone by himself in a room. And I think it's something that we have to begin, and it can start with people, but we have to begin to sit with ourselves and what's going on inside at some point.
Yeah.
And be able to, I'm not always going to have a therapist. We're not always going to have somebody there with us.
Right.
We need those are good, but at some point we're going to leave and go home. And even if you have a spouse, you're going to be by yourself for a moment in that car with just you and your thoughts. And I think that the fighting at some point for the capability to be able to sit down with the Lord in your thoughts and sit in it with them. That's helped my mind, is to be able to invite God into that bit of internal chaos. And it's actually allowed the level of chaos to kind of decrease, because he begins to make sense of some of those things.
Yeah.
In a variety of ways that I won't get into.
I like that. Yeah, no, I think that's something for like you actually talking about sitting in the silence and things like that. For me, how I've been trying to like continue to get better in my mental is I overthink and I keep things bottled in a lot. Because I tend to think that people don't understand what it is that I'm going through.
Yeah.
And so what I've been trying to do and learning to do is finding some type of outlet of my thoughts and not keeping everything always in. Because I find that that's how I tend to have my breakdown.
Yeah.
Is what I call, because I tend to then have a day where it all just comes out, and now I'm just crying profusely, and
yeah, me too.
I'm like, I don't know what's going on, and then I just start going off about everything, about this and that and this and that. So I've been trying to find a way to have that outlet for myself, of whether it's writing or recording something, learning to find my voice, I guess you could say.
It makes us a whole lot more compassionate with others going through all of this.
Mm-hmm.
At least it should. I know it's helped me. I'm a little less quick to talk about people's coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
I think some can be very unhealthy, clearly. But some of what you just said, I think it's like, maybe that does work. Maybe it doesn't have to be the way I think they should be handling it. Because I don't really want people telling me
how
I should be handling how I feel. There's a whole lot more we could talk about, but
well, for another episode.
yeah, we got several seasons of your stuff coming out.
And on that note, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
You're funny.
I don't know how to do this.
I don't know how to do it either. This is my first one, but guys, I hope that you enjoyed. Video may be a little choppy, but it's okay. But I hope y'all enjoy. I hope you watch. If you stay for the whole video, you're appreciated. And again, we'll figure out a name for this at some point. Please, suggestions. I'm taking them all. And all right, bye.